What's going on, everyone? This is Ivan Thomas, aka Mr. Defy Gravity, and you are tuning into Black Men Sundays.
It's a Black Man Sunday. Time to put all childish things away. I refuse to be the man I was yesterday. Gotta put my best foot forward and elevate.
What's going on, everybody? This is Black Men Sundays. I'm your host, Corie Murray, and we're talking about generational wealth. We're talking about finance, and of course, we're talking about business. And before we introduce today's guest, my man Eric from Hunts Vegas, Alabama, who do you have for our Black Men Sunday Spotlight?
Hey, Corey, thanks a lot for that introduction. Today's spotlight, we're going to look at this Black woman lawyer that took down America's most powerful mafia boss back in the 1930s. Now, this lady, her name is Eunice Carter, and she was born in 1899, and she defied racial and gender expectations of her time. Now, by the 1940s, her remarkable professional and political achievements had elevated her to become one of the most famous Black women in America. Now, Eunice Carter, she was a Smith College graduate and a granddaughter of slaves. She defied odds as a Black woman prosecutor in the 1930s in New York City. Her historical achievement was highlighted when, according to her grandson, Stephen Carter, a biography which is called Invisible, she masterminded the strategy that led to the conviction of Lucky Larciano, the most powerful mafia boss back in 1936. Now, Eunice Carter triumphs were marred by prejudice and tragedy, notably her challenging relationship with her younger brother, Alphaeus, which was a communist who also, along with Dashaw Hamlet, faced imprisonment during the McCartney era. Now, despite facing these obstacles, she was dictated by social and political norms at her time. She remains resilient, but never accept defeat. That's my spotlight for today. Miss Eunice Carter, back to you.
Hey, thank you, Eric, for that Black Men Sunday Spotlight. Now, before we introduce today's guest, I'm going to just give y'all a tip. Check your emails. If I didn't check this email, it would be a little different on Black Men Sundays. I'll just say that. But I'm going to just say tip number one for this episode, before I even introduce today's guest, is make sure you check your email. Even if you don't know who's emailing you, just check it, research them, and please respond back. But let's go on to introduce today's guest. We have Ivan Thomas on here. This brother is known as Mr. Defy Gravity. He's the president and CEO of Intrigue Media Group. Actually, that was the email that I got, so we're going to dive a little deeper into that a little later. This brother also owns a credit repair company, Credit Savant LLC. And the best thing about this brother, man, he won the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from Joe Biden in 2022. So without further ado, Ivan Thomas, welcome to Black Men Sundays, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, brother. How you doing?
Oh, I'm
Thanks
doing great. I'm doing great. And one thing, I remember checking my email in the morning. It was like 8 in the morning a couple months ago. And it said, Ivan Thomas, Intrigue Media Group. I said, who was that? But something said, answer that email and let's see what we're talking about. And guess what happens? This brother is a celebrity publicist. So let's run through this brother's resume real quick. This brother has Melody Cherie. She's Melody Cherie Rogers now. Waka Flocka Flame, Ted Santos, Roderick Lawrence. This brother also has businesses, Nielsen, Xerox, Cancer Treatment Center of America. He's also had Reverend Jesse Jackson as a client, actor Darren Henson, basketball player Michael Beasley. And, some of those guests have appeared on Black Men Sunday. So I just wanted to clarify to let people know who's on this show. So my first question for you, brother, we talk about generational wealth. We talk about finance and business. You're a celebrity publicist. But one thing, when I look at your titles, everything revolves around mindset. So let's talk about the mindset that you have in your life, because I see, brother, from your Instagram, you're well-traveled. So just talk about the mindset that prepares you for life on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. So the mindset that prepares me for life on a daily basis is really just me reminding myself of who I am and what I desire to, put into the world, to be completely honest. I believe each and every one of us, we have skills, we have a purpose for being here. We're not merely here to exist. So about 10 years ago, I really started the journey of just, learning myself, to be completely honest. Like, why am I here? What am I put here to do? I had gone through a period in my life where I just felt like I was just going through the motions, and I was just, working every single day without any real sense of purpose. I wasn't truly passionate about what I was doing. So I had to go on this journey to figure out, like, hey, what am I here for? So as I embarked on that journey and started just uncovering certain elements of even myself that I didn't know about, and, just motivating myself, reading, studying, I was able to really tap into my gifts, uncover my skill sets, and really identify what I believe is my purpose, which is to do good on this earth and to help other people to bring out their greatness. So really for the past 10 years, specifically, that's really what I've been focused on doing, just projecting the best of myself and helping others to do the same. So every day, I wake up with the intention of making an impact.
Definitely, man. And speaking of the impact, I mean, you're a celebrity publicist. So for people that don't know what that means this brother manages brands and the reputations of these individuals and these companies. And he also finds media outlets that are well suited for those individuals. Just a quick little fact for brothers that don't know, because they hear the terminology, but a lot of times you just hear it sounds cute, but you don't understand what that means. So as a celebrity publicist, my brother, and the owner, the president and CEO of your own company, Intrigue Media Group, how were you able to build those celebrity relationships and allow them to trust you first off?
Right. So yeah, just a real quick story, it wasn't always like that. I didn't always have the relationships, but I know you're in the Florida area. About 10 years ago, I was in this small town north of Orlando called Palm Coast, Florida. Right. And that's where I started my company, Intrigue Media Group. But if you know anything about that area, it's like a small town. Like 10 years ago, it's like retirees moving there who just coming down from New York City and different places, just wanting to be by the beach and stuff like that. But I started my company there, and really there were just, some people who they might have a book or they have a small company that they're trying to launch, but there was kind of like a small town type of mindset there. But still with that, I started my company, and I'm telling you, man, I'm making like $250 a month with this client, 250. I wasn't making no kind of money at all, but I was just working my tail off. And I started, getting these people, press coverage, getting them in some outlets around the country and things of that nature. And what that did, even though it seemed small at that time, was it put me on the map. It showed other people, like, they look like, hey, how did you get there? How did you get that interview? How is this person writing about your business? And gradually I started bringing more attention to me, where I had people reaching out from different states. Like, hey, I saw this article in this outlet, I read that this came from your company. I'm interested in PR. So I started building myself up that way. And then I've been in the Atlanta area for about 7 years now. So, after I got married, I moved up this way. And, of course, if you know anything about Atlanta, this is like, the mecca for Black entrepreneurship and Black Hollywood, they're shooting all kinds of films, the entertainment, arena is really buzzing. We got sports, all of these different things around here. So there's so much more to do. So I moved up here, and then immediately I just hit the ground. I'm setting up meetings with, program directors at radio stations. I'm meeting with producers at TV stations. I've been writing press releases for years. So check out this outlet at Los Angeles. And I'm like, hey, they're doing entertainment, but they're not covering anything in the Atlanta area. You know what I'm saying? And we got all these types of events, BET Hip Hop Awards, all types of different things going on in the city. But I'm like, hey, maybe I can be some added value to them and cover some events on their behalf, since they're not reaching Atlanta. So I just reached out, and they're like, hey, would you be interested in me doing that? I'm like, do you like some of the stuff that I've presented to you through some of the clients that I've sent your way? And he's like, well, yeah, we pretty much published everything that you send us. So, I mean, hey, what's going on over there? So I just told them, they gave me the press credentials, and before you know it, I'm going to every conference. I'm going to every award show. I'm reporting on the red carpet, writing articles for them. And what that did, I wasn't even getting paid, and I didn't care about getting paid. I just wanted the exposure. So just by being in this arena, I'm making connections naturally. People are seeing that I'm out at some of the biggest, hottest events, in the arena. whether it's entertainment, whether it's business, whether it's empowerment, whether it's sports, I'm just there, and I'm writing about this stuff. And then naturally people are like, hey, how are you getting there? I want to connect with this guy. And so I leverage that free opportunity to kind of get exposure from my company. And then through those connections that I made, I recognized that I could also connect my clients, to these opportunities as well. So that's pretty much how I did it. Really just relationship based. So the operative word in public relations is relations. We help people to build relationships. And when people come to me to provide services, they're depending on my relationships, right? So I have to have, whether it's with different reporters and producers, whether it's with event planners, whether it's with, leaders of different organizations, they depend on me to have these relationships. And that's what I did, really the first several years. And still I do it every day. It's constant relationship building. But when I first got here in this area, I was just hitting the pavement super hard. And that's how I started to build the relationships and bring that value. So that's how I did it.
Wow, man, that's great
Hope I answered your
information.
question.
Oh no,
Hope I
you
answered.
slayed that,
Okay.
man. And I got a couple more for you before I open the stage to the brothers, man. I have another question, but I'm going to jump that because you mentioned something very important that a lot of brothers I don't think heard. You said the word exposure. A lot of brothers, when
Yeah.
they start businesses as entrepreneurs, because you're an entrepreneur, so when brothers start businesses as entrepreneurs, I feel like we kind of have super high expectations, super high goals, which is great because I always say believe in yourself, believe in your vision, and
Yeah.
execute it. But then over some time, if it's been a year or it's been a couple of years and money's not trickling in, but you see you're gaining more exposure, a lot of people kind of just give up on that move and they say, well, it was fun, but because it wasn't generating any dollars, they give up on that goal. So as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, for someone that's in that role of a year or two, or just maybe a couple of months into their business and it's not going great, what advice would you give them?
You got to embrace the process, and I have a book called Defy Gravity, Unleashing Your Greatness Within, where I talk about that, embracing the process. Success doesn't come overnight. And, for most people, now there are people, rare cases where people just come out the box, they're hitting on all cylinders, but sometimes you even got to be careful with that. Sometimes you can grow quickly and then just fizzle out. So I think that people have to recognize that, one, you have to embrace the process. You're going to go through trial and error. You're going to go through finding your identity as an entrepreneur, and you're going to deal with that inevitable adversity. We're dealing with an economy now that's uncertain, inflation through the roof, it's so many things, the value of the American dollar diminishing. We're just seeing so much going on right now. And every entrepreneur, no matter at what level you're on, we have to pivot. We have to, be innovative and find ways to, continue to offer that value. Some people need to make a shift. So, and for me, I didn't make a lot of money the first couple of years of my business. I wasn't making that much money at all, but I refused to give up. So going back to even the mindset that you were talking about, there was no quit in me. I said, if I do this, I'm doing it till the wheels fall off. I'd rather fail on my own terms than fail and not be successful on somebody else's terms. And I made the decision and the promise to myself that, hey, when I go into this entrepreneurial journey, I know that there's going to be hardship. You gotta plan for those things, and you don't know how it's going to come. Like for me, being in the PR industry, I can be making a ton of money, at one point, and then depending on what's going on in the environment, maybe my clients are struggling. So then I lose a couple clients. You know what I'm saying? It impacts me. So I got to figure out, how could I maybe restructure some things within my company so I can still bring value or bring in new clients. How can I plan for the future in the event that you lose a client? Because in my business, you're going to lose clients. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You could have a client for a year, you could have a client for 5 years, but eventually their needs might change, your needs might change. So you have to plan for these things. But for those people who, are struggling in the beginning, I would just say keep going, but also recognize that you don't have to put it all on your shoulders. Like I mentioned, it's about relationships. So sometimes you got to collaborate with people. Lots of times we, due to ego or pride, we don't want to ask for support or ask for assistance from other people. But there's plenty of talented people around where you can pull your resources together and make it work. So yeah, that's pretty much what I would say. Just don't give up. recognize that there's going to be challenges, there's going to be trials and tribulations, and just keep your eyes and ears open to what's going on in your environment so that you can adjust. That's the biggest thing, making adjustments.
Great information, man. And you're also the founder of Defy Gravity International.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
Right. So Defy Gravity International actually came to me during the COVID-19 pandemic, the first wave of the pandemic. And, kind of what we're talking about, people going through things, people struggling, people furloughed, people, laid off from their jobs and couldn't go into the office, and really, some people were falling into depression, all kinds of things. So I'm sitting here, knowing that I work with people on a consistent basis and just kind of even just reflecting on my journey and how I've been affected, not even just during the COVID pandemic, but just my journey into finding myself in entrepreneurship and really being able to, present the best of myself. So I'm sitting there like, what value can I bring to society right now? And during that time, I said, you know what? I always wanted to write a book. So I started this book probably like in 2018, right? It's called Defy Gravity, Unleashing Your Greatness Within. And that book right there, I started on it maybe in like 2018, but I just had maybe like 10 pages done. But during the pandemic, I'm like, okay, we're confined to our homes anyway. I'm going to go ahead and finish this book. So I just made a point. I'm just going to take out a couple weeks and I'm just going to bang out this book. And the crazy thing about it is, and that's what I tell entrepreneurs all the time. You can plan for things in life, or not even just entrepreneurs. You can plan for things in life all you want, but you can't control what's going on in the universe, right? So even as I'm writing this book, there's things happening, right? I'm seeing how people are being impacted business-wise and through entrepreneurship. I'm seeing the health battles people are facing. I'm seeing the self-doubt and the lack of confidence that people are having during this period. And it's all helping me with the subject matter for this book. So I'm writing the book, and I finished it in June of 2020, called Defy Gravity, Unleashing Your Greatness Within, which pretty much details my journey into finding myself, developing a success mindset, identifying my gifts and my purpose so that I can activate that. And that's what's allowed me to accomplish some of the things that I've accomplished, which, before that, man, I never even dreamed of accomplishing some of the things that I accomplished. I didn't even know it was in me, right? But, I wrote all of that. I shared all of that in the book. And from that book, I decided the next step. I'm like, you know what? I came up with the name Defy Gravity, which was perfect. Defying gravity is all about overcoming all obstacles, all challenges, and launching into your ultimate level of personal and professional greatness. Okay. And so I thought about that. I'm like, the name is dope. So after I released the book, got feedback from the book, people are like, man, that's amazing. So then I said, you know what? I want to take this a step further. I want to start speaking at schools about this, speaking at conferences about this. So that's what I started doing, just reaching out to schools. I'm speaking at high schools, I'm speaking at elementary schools, I'm speaking at colleges. Then eventually I'm speaking at empowerment conferences and entrepreneur conferences. And then this movement just started taking on just a whole new meaning for me. So it was something that just came to me, like God just dropped it in my lap, in 2020. And then it's just catapulted from there, to where now we got merch and stuff, hoodies, all types of things. And, really the focus is just helping people to tap into their inner greatness. That's what Defy Gravity International is all about.
Definitely. And for brothers and sisters that, we want to tap in now. So give us some tips that way we can tap into our inner greatness and live out our dreams.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So the first step is to study yourself. Let's be real. We got brothers out there who can tell you all the reasons why MJ is better than LeBron or LeBron's better than MJ. They know all the stats going back from 1987 or whatever. We don't even know the statistics on ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So that is the first thing. You got to get to know yourself. At the beginning of my journey, like I told you, like 10 years ago, I really just dove into this journey of figuring out myself, right? And figuring out what type of value I could bring to the world. And the things that I'm accomplishing now, I didn't even know were possible because it wasn't in my mindset at that period. So you got to learn yourself, like, what are my wants? What are my desires? And then you map out a plan for how to get there. The second step, I would say, is to blame yourself. Okay. And that's actually the first chapter of my book, Blame Yourself. Okay, we've all been through traumas, we've been through adversity, we've had different things happen in our lives. And when I say blame yourself, it's not to say that everything is particularly your fault, but blaming yourself allows you to seize accountability for your current station in life. Okay. And what it also does is it forces you to remove the accountability or remove the power from other people and other circumstances and claim that power for yourself. So I told myself, you know what, man, I'm not where I want to be because of myself. You know what I'm saying? This happened to me because I allowed this relationship to transpire too long when I should have severed ties because that person was bringing me down. You know, there's so many things that, you know, even though we might not be the perpetrator, we're still free thinking individuals. We have the ability to move ourselves out of certain environments. I know people who are miserable where they're living right now, but because they love the skyline in Chicago or something, they refuse to move. But that's holding them back because, you know, they're unable to get the opportunities that they're looking for. So you got to blame yourself, remove the power from circumstances and individuals, and recognize that the key to you succeeding is yourself. Then I would say stop lying to yourself. You know if you're waking up late in the morning, you know if you're not studying, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the relationships that you need to achieve your dreams. You know if you're not putting in the work. You know, so lots of us lie to ourselves every day and we make excuses for why we're not where we want to be. But if you blame yourself and you stop lying to yourself and you be truthful with yourself, then you can really figure out, okay, number one, what do I want? Why don't I have what I want? What can I achieve or who can I meet? What types of resources do I need to obtain what I want? And then you can get on the road to actually accomplishing it. So that's what I would say. And that's how
Definitely.
you can get on the road to define gravity.
Wow, that's powerful, man. Because I was checking your Instagram out and I saw you had a quote saying, you know, you let people suck the life out of you when you gave them
Yeah.
the straw, man. So
Yeah. I
you
know a
know,
lot of people do that. I've done that plenty of times before. You know, I used to be a people pleaser. You know, I used to be one of those individuals who just wanted to see people happy all the time. And I still do. You know, I want people to be their best selves, but, you know, it was, really to the detriment of myself. You know, you're just pouring things out sometimes into the wrong people who don't really appreciate your efforts. And sometimes that stifles your growth. And then you're unable to truly give what you want to give to society.
Oh, this is Kalali Dobe out of Calvin, Maryland. Thanks for spending some time to talk to us. Secondly, man, you're a dynamic speaker. I see why you're a motivational speaker. You're a dynamic speaker. You
I
really
appreciate it, bro.
for real. You really hit a lot of the points that I wanted to ask about, but I still want to pick your brain about a few things. So, like,
Okay.
you know, in the past, I've mentored some people in like, you know, trying to start business or just trying to think strategically about how to like maneuver even within their own professional lives, you know. And one of the things I always say is look, you want to get ahead. It's not always, you know, it's not always roses and
Right.
gold dust. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you're gonna have to really grind. And one of the things that I've said to people is sometimes you're gonna have to do some things for free. Like everybody think you just go in business and you just get money and people pay you and this and that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're gonna have to do some things for free.
Right.
And it sounds to me like from the way you've been talking about your grind that you've had to do some things for free. You know what I mean? Okay, so could you just talk to us about the power of like being able to, you know, do what the benefit of is of doing some things for free for people or collaborating with people?
Yeah, absolutely. See, a lot of people think that value only comes in the form of money, and that's not true, right? Value comes in the form of relationships. And when you have bountiful relationships, and you open up the doors to make more money. So, again, when I first moved to Georgia, the Atlanta area, I wasn't making a lot of money, and the first thing I did was, I found, this person. He was a big time producer who I had met, on a project, several years before. I met him at a conference, and I'm just like, hey man, I started this PR agency. I don't really have a lot of relationships in Atlanta. I just really moved here. Like, I would love to work with you. So I started working with this brother for free. You know what I'm saying? Just helping him, and kind of leveraging, his exposure and some of his connections in order to help build up my brand. So it was mutually beneficial. So, I'm getting them in Black Enterprise. I'm getting them in Essence Magazine. I'm getting them in all of these different, outlets. I'm doing the writing for him. I'm positioning him in different outlets, securing him at different events. And I started doing that stuff for free. And then people are like, yo, like, I see the work that you're doing. You're bringing attention to yourself by showcasing your work. and outsiders don't know if you're getting paid or not. They just see, the quality and the caliber of work, and, this person's your client, and then you leverage that to get a new client, and you make connections and you build yourself up there. So, that was really beneficial to just putting me on the map, because I had zero presence in this area. I didn't know anybody. So, just being able to take advantage of that. And then even, again, being the contributor to that outlet in LA, who I still contribute with, by the way, even, though my company has grown exponentially. It's called EUR Web. Shout out Lee Bailey out there in Los Angeles, who's the publisher, who's just giving me the opportunity. But just doing those, I didn't even want the money. I just wanted the opportunity to just be at these events and to be able to network and be able to give out my business card and to show that I was out in the places that I needed to be. And people are watching. You never know who's watching. I can't tell you how many clients and people who I've never spoken to ever, they might just be looking at my stories or looking at something on Instagram, or they see somebody else post something and they ask, hey, who helped you get that article? And then next thing you know, I have a new client. So never overlook the power of just bringing value. Our responsibility is to bring service to people. And when you do that, when you bring value to other people, I think you get it back. I'm one of those people who believes in energy, and what you pour out into the universe, you'll get back tenfold, as long as it's genuine. I truly believe that. So always be willing, but there is a point where you got to cut it off. You can't work for free forever, but you just got to know, you got to know that, it's mutually beneficial and it's getting you to a point to where you can leverage those opportunities and then start charging. But a lot of new entrepreneurs just want to race out of the gate and make money, but you have no reputation. You have no track record of success. So you want to build that track record and build that history, and then you can start charging.
Got you. So what I'm hearing from you is leverage that partnership, even if you are working for free, to show the value of your work. So that's how you put the track record of success, and then people see, oh, this person actually does bring value. And I love what you said about service, man, about just trying to be of service. Like that's really I feel like that's really key. It sounds to me like you're in the relationship building business. How important do you think networking and relationship building is to building a successful business? Because the reason I ask this is because a lot of people think, or at least the image is sometimes that, oh, you can go out here and be on your own and kind of do your own grind. But what I've seen is, and we've had a lot of people come on the show who have been very successful, and it always seems like they have a team, or they're collaborating, or they're networking, or they're doing something like that. So could you talk to us about how important it is to build those relationships and have a network?
Yeah, relationships and having a network are absolutely paramount to your success. Like they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So it's always great when you have the relationships, and you might just need a favor. I mean, even hearkening back to what we were talking about entrepreneurs who might be struggling, or people who are struggling. There's nothing like being able to pick up the phone and say, hey, bro, I need a favor. Or, hey, can you do this for me? Or can you make this connection? But if you don't have the relationships, you can't call on people even during, times of adversity. So lots of people like to act like they're this self-made millionaire, or they became successful on their own. It never happens that way. You need people in order to succeed. You need to build relationships. You need people who can vouch and be, advocates and supporters of your brand in order for you to grow. So networking is key, man. And it starts with just, seeing what kind of value you can bring to other people. I tell people not to be selfish networkers. Don't just come and try to meet people and say, what can you do for me? Or I want to reach out to this person so that they can help me. You always should approach somebody, with the mindset of bringing value to them and letting it be mutually beneficial. And that always opens up way more doors. And, when it's genuine, people are willing to refer you. People are willing to, even with my credit repair company, I work with people in credit repair. I'll fix somebody's credit and then they refer somebody else to me, and that's relationships, and that's actually value in the relationships, where you're not just looking at somebody to get money from them or get something of benefit to you from it. You're actually looking to bring service and value and to help that person to get in a better space. And then they're more willing to bring people your way. So, you got to have the relationships.
It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, you're in Atlanta, right?
Yes.
So what opportunities do you think are there out there for Black people that are in Atlanta that aren't anywhere else? Like, what I'm really trying to get at is, how is it networking in Atlanta for a Black person versus other places?
I think it's great. Most people in Atlanta will say, "Hey, we're full. Stop coming here." Like that's pretty much where Atlanta is right now. But so at the end of the day, man, but still, I think this is the Mecca. I was born in DC. I went to Howard University, and when I was there, that was considered Chocolate City. You know what I'm saying? And that's where a lot of successful, educated brothers and sisters used to be, and still are. But Atlanta has just taken on a life of its own, man. Like I said before, like from the business and entrepreneur landscape to even, government, Black mayors, Black judges and things of that nature. Tons of Black-owned restaurants. The entertainment sector is huge. The movie industry is huge. So I think for Black people, Black professionals, Black entrepreneurs, like this is an amazing place to be as far as making connections and really feeling like you're doing something that's adding to the culture. So it's definitely been a place that helped me to really grow and elevate my business. At this particular moment, I can't imagine being, anywhere at this stage in my life outside of Atlanta. But yeah, I definitely think even if you don't live here, you definitely need to be tapped into Atlanta and the different opportunities.
You have a credit repair company.
Yes.
So could you just talk to us a little bit about what the importance of having good credit is, or if you don't have good credit, what's the importance of repairing that credit?
Well, I'll just start you off with this. The wealthiest people, in the world, they leverage credit. So that's enough to let us, everyday people know that credit is extremely important. I can't tell you how many celebrities, how many athletes that I know of who are having difficulty getting their homes, couldn't get a rental car. They had to get their assistant to get a rental car or a hotel room in their name because their credit was so poor. That's how essential credit, and these are millionaires, and it sounds crazy, but unless you're gonna, it doesn't matter how much money you are. I think it's ridiculous when you might have a celebrity and they say, "Hey, I bought this Rolls Royce for $500,000 cash." That's not smart, because there's other ways you can leverage your money instead of just putting all your money in one place and then it's gone. So I think that having good credit, allows us to do so many things, whether you want to open a business, whether you're a young person who just wants to get into your first apartment. I remember when I was walking campus at Howard University, I had no knowledge or education about credit at all. And you have all these different credit companies. Hey, you want your first credit card? Hey, you want a credit card for this store, this department store? And I'm just like, hey, yeah, thinking it's like free money. So I'm sitting there charging my cards. It might be Best Buy, it might be Target, and you got bad credit by the time you're 23 years old because you got a little $150 bill here over at Target. You got this other, so you're just accumulating bad debt because you don't know how to leverage credit. You don't even know what credit is, right? So I think it's important to be knowledgeable about it because especially in our community, we've had a fear historically of credit, just like credit cards are bad because we haven't been taught how to use them. We haven't been taught how to use the bonuses and, the perks of credit cards and how as long as we, make sure that we're paying our bills on time and establishing a good, payment history and a good reputation with companies, how we can continue to build up our credit scores that can allow us to get access to funding and a lot of different opportunities. So, those are things that we're still trying to educate people about. But credit is absolutely essential to growing.
Well, first off, being a celebrity publicist, did you have any coincidental clients that you met?
Yeah, actually, Melody Cherie, is a client that I'm working with right now. She's from Love and Marriage Huntsville. And, dynamic businesswoman, got businesses in real estate. She's doing stuff in the beauty and fashion industry, dynamic individual. But funny thing is, I had seen her at a Sheen magazine event maybe like 6 years ago, like not too long after I moved to the Atlanta area. And so, I was intrigued by her, and her husband at that time, their message, and I was there with another client. And we took a picture. It was Vivica Fox. It was a client, Brooklyn Tanker. In the background was Melody Cherie, and she's on my website, on the main banner of my website. This picture that was taken 6 years ago. And a friend that I went to Howard University reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm working with somebody. I'm a producer on this reality TV show, I have a potential client for you. Again, going back to relationships, she just thought of me and just said, hey, she's been paying attention to what I'm doing. She said, hey, I got this client for you. And so her name was Melody Cherie. And, we got on the phone, we started talking, had synergy. Before you know it, she's my client. So I'm just looking at my own website, which I don't always do, but I just happened to look on my website. I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And I sent her a screenshot. I'm like, yo, that's you on my website right there. This picture was taken like 6 years ago. So you were destined to be my client. We just laughed it up. But that was a funny situation. That was real, just kind of coincidental where I had met her, and then just the way that it kind of tied back together to where I was there with another client at that time. Now she's my client. That's kind of crazy. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because I know typically, I'm a media guy, so I talk to publicists all the time, and every now and then you hear a couple coincidental stories. So I figured you had one in the chamber for me. Speaking of reputation, with as an entrepreneur or just as a new business owner that's trying to build your reputation, what tips can you give to be a good reputation builder for your business?
The first tip would be to be authentic. We're in this age with social media and, with all of these different platforms where you can pretty much put out any image that you want. Right. And, so we're at this stage right now where, everybody's just looking at what's trendy. Everyone's copying each other, and it's tough to sift through who's authentic. So I definitely tell people to be authentic because, your audience isn't stupid. There's going to come a time where you're going to show your real self, and then, they're going to feel deceived, or they're going to feel betrayed. And then anything positive that you thought you were building, you could completely undo that. So I would definitely say, if you want to build a brand, start off by being authentic. Also, you need to know who your audience is. There's a saying that, if you're trying to be all things to everybody, then you're nothing to anybody. Right. So it's like, too many people want to cater to everybody. They don't zero in on who their target audience is or who can most specifically benefit from their products or their services. So they try to be all things to everybody. They try to market to everybody. And in reality, when you do that, you're marketing to and branding yourself to nobody. So those are definitely some big branding pieces. And then like we talked about, building relationships. You can't build a brand if nobody knows who you are. You could be the most talented, most intelligent individual out there. If nobody knows what you do, it doesn't even matter. You're not going to be able to grow and scale a business.
Definitely great information, man. And just piggybacking off of your credit repair company, holidays coming up, this happens to me. This happened to me last year, but I had a plan this year. I went in and made me a holiday fund because I noticed, like, for the last 2 December, January shows, I'm kind of disgruntled doing Black Men Sundays. And I'm like, oh, I see why, because, September, October, my credit score is lovely. December, January, I'm kind of like, it's going to take me a minute to get this down, but I'm normally good by August. I'm normally on top of the world. So right now I'm on top of the world, but I'm like, okay, here we go again. But, like I said, I got on point last year. But what advice would you give for brothers on a credit side where, okay, they have good credit right now, they've worked it down all year, but, wifey or the girlfriend, they're going to want that, that nice piece of jewelry. They're going to want a nice Gucci, a nice Dior sweater. They're going to want a new car, or, they're going to want something to show that you love them. They're not going to want to just go to Zaxby's for dinner. They're going to want a $500 dinner on top of the Christmas gifts. And then if there's kids involved, here we go. So let's go, man. Christmas holidays coming up. Let's go.
Well, hey, I got the wife, I got the 4 kids, so I know exactly how it is. But, I would just say, man, honestly, we just gotta do a little more planning. You know what I'm saying? I think that, lots of us get ourselves in trouble because we spend way beyond our means, and then we got to find a way to dig ourselves out of it. And I think that sometimes we just want to plan ahead. Like, if we know that this is coming up, we want to make sure that we're setting something aside, or, every once in a while throwing something in there so that we can do the big purchases later on, during the holidays. That's how I would recommend doing it. But I know lots of times we get ourselves in jams because in my household, there's always something somebody needs, always something somebody wants to do. A birthday is coming up, and my wife, we got anniversary, her birthday, Christmas. It's almost like all thrown in there, and she expects something for every single one of those. So and she should, get the best. But I just think that planning is essential. I think that, especially, and I'm a person, I pay attention to the landscape. I pay attention to the economy. I pay attention to how much things are costing, the fluctuations, all of that stuff. And I think that, you just want to be smart. This is not really a period where you want to play around. There's too many intangibles and uncertainties going on where we don't know what the economic landscape is going to be looking in the next 365 days. And I think that you don't want to put yourself in a jam by making purchases that you don't need. I mean, maybe you do something smaller, and Valentine's Day is coming up. And maybe you do the big thing in Valentine's Day. But if you don't have it right now, I would recommend that you don't max out those credit cards, and get in the jam going into 2024. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, definitely. Because, I talk to brothers all the time and they like, listen, man, I've been paying this card off all year. She's going to want X, Y, Z. I don't have the money, but if I swipe it, I can just take care of it next year. But then I'm like, but then you're going to be back in the same situation like me the last few years. So I appreciate
I mean,
that
if you can pay it off, do what you want to do. It's all about that financial responsibility. If you can't pay it off and it's going to put you in a jam, it's not really worth it. And I think those are some of the things that, in our community, we just got to make smarter decisions, with our finances. And, like I said, it goes back to blaming yourself. Sometimes our issues are self-inflicted. It's decisions that we choose to make. We choose to do certain things with our money. Nobody's taking the money from us. We're choosing to spend it. So, as long as it's something that you think you can manage, by all means do it. But if you don't think you can manage it, or if you don't know at that point and it might put you at a disadvantage, I wouldn't do it.
Definitely great information, man. You enjoying yourself on Black Men Sundays?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I always enjoy the conversations. I've been checking them out.
Yeah, definitely. And that goes back
Sure.
to when I was introducing you. I was telling people, make sure you check your emails. I got an email from you. I'm like, who is this? Clicked it. Is it spam? Let me check it out. Let me do some research. And, it was like,
Yeah, can I just say one thing? Because we talked about relationships, right? So me and you have never met in person. But let me just first of all say that I appreciate, your platform. I appreciate everything you're doing. I appreciate, the value and, the discussions that you're putting forth on your platform. And, when we talk about building relationships, I've had the opportunity to build the relationship with Corie, and I'm glad that I'm able to be on this platform and speak with you, gentlemen. He's been of value to me because, hey, as a publicist, I got to find platforms to position my clients on, where they can get their message out. So he's been very valuable, to me, as far as creating a platform for whatever my clients are doing or whatever they want to talk about, allowing them to do that. And I would hope that, I'm bringing value by bringing, informative, powerful individuals on this platform that can, really help to create some engaging conversations. So I think, when there's mutual benefit like that, that's how we grow.
Yeah, definitely. Because I was, after, because I felt like the first, when you sent me, a few of your clients, I was like, okay, he keeps sending us more, so we doing something right over. Even though we know we on point over here, but to see a publicist sending clients over, that means there's a trust level there. That means they know their client is in good hands, and they know that we're going to ask some good questions. So,
right.
I appreciate that about you. I appreciate you sending your clients over. I see you have some in the stash you've been kind of holding out on, though. We got to clean that up a little bit, bro. What's up,
I
man?
can send those over too, like I said, all of my clients have been pleased, man. Whenever I ask them how you think it went, they're like, hey, you asked great questions. It was a great discussion. So that's how you build a brand, So Black Men Sundays is doing a great job building the brand, with some very positive and productive conversations about our community. And it's because of the track record, the track record of, success, the track record of, engaging conversations, professionalism, all of those things, that's allowing him to build this brand, and even me, where I'm a supporter. I didn't know anything about it until I'm just doing my research. I'm like, oh, Black Men Sundays, what's that? Doing a little research. seeing some of the past interviews. I read up a bit about Corie just to see what he does, in the media space. And I'm like, you know what, let me reach out. And from there, just seeing, how positive the interviews have been with the clients that I have passed his way. Hey, I'm just going to continue to send more and, just be a supporter and an advocate for what he's doing.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely. I appreciate you for sure, man, because the thing about the show is, we're in that stage where we're building exposure. Some of your clients have come on and said, I enjoyed my experience here. I didn't even know you existed.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. So, so with Black Men Sundays, we took our first initiative in our community where, we're doing a turkey drive for the Boys and Girls Club of Central Florida, where we're not just doing one, we're doing two full clubs. We're taking care of all families from both clubs. They getting turkeys. And, it showed me doing this podcast that it's a lot of listeners, a lot of guest speakers, co-workers, just viewers on Channel 6, because, I also do media on there as well.
Right.
Just to see the love reciprocated from a financial level, I was like, wow, like, we're really doing something there. So, I definitely appreciate you and appreciate you for coming on the show. But I'm not gonna let you go just yet. I gotta get on and get my generational wealth question in before I let you slide out of here. So, first off, we're, in this economy, a lot of brothers are talking about, okay, should I buy a house? Should I even do any stocks? Should I buy gold bars? Or should I buy gold and then at some point build up to a bar? A lot of brothers are struggling with adapting to this economy. So how can we decrease this wealth gap, but still live our normal lives, pay bills, and put money aside for the future to create generational wealth? A lot of brothers are saying, I don't see how I can create generational wealth if I barely have enough money to feed my family, because when, the inflation, I'm paying XYZ for bills, but I haven't had a raise on my job in 4 or 5 years, and I'm scared to ask for a raise. So what advice would you give for brothers that are, they hear the generational wealth conversation, but they're saying it's hard for me to really believe in it when I can't see my finances even allowing me to even take part in it?
Yeah, well, I think that's the fatal flaw with us, because lots of times we think about it from an individualistic standpoint. We just sat here and talked about the importance of relationships, and I'm big on group economics. And when I look at other communities, whether, I live outside of Atlanta, I'm in this community right on the border of Johns Creek and Swanee. It's Indians, Koreans, Black people, it's a good little mixture, but a lot of people, from other, backgrounds, and just seeing how they work together, really sticks out to me. And I think that in order to generate wealth, we have to embrace this, group economics concept and recognize that if you're just depending on yourself or looking at it from an individualistic standpoint, then you're not gonna really get where you want to go. At least not where I see society going right now. And I'm constantly just paying attention to what's going on, man. You got people looking at moving out of the country, all types of different things because of the landscape. But even me and my mom, just to be honest, we're talking about, I was talking to my brother the other day. We're talking about just pooling into properties and, investing together, and lots of time, we didn't even have those conversations a couple of years ago. We always talk about generational wealth. We're educated, we're all successful in our own right. But at the end of the day, we've been approaching things from a more individual standpoint, because sometimes working with family sometimes can be difficult. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't really mention it, but, I worked with my dad at the very beginning of my career. Right at the very beginning, and before I stepped away and built my own company. But lots of times, I think some of the traumas, some of the things that we endure from our family environment sometimes keeps us from not really embracing that group economics type of thing. But I think as adults, especially if you have relationships with your family or even friends that you trust, business associates, whatever, find ways that you can, embark on endeavors together, so you're not just working on it yourself. I follow these brothers, they call the circle of CEOs, right? And they always say, hey, if I need $100,000, who can I call? You know what I'm saying? It's always beneficial when you get in a jam, having relationships where if you just need that one solid and you've built that track record of integrity and you have a good relationship, you can call and be like, hey, brother, I need this, and to have somebody that trusts you, trusts your value, and knows that if they look out for you, that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and you're going to get them back when the time is right, and I think that's the key to us shrinking this gap. We can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6 Black billionaires, in the US right now. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to change the tide. We're doing things from an individualistic standpoint. We gotta do group economics.
Wow, man. Great information. My last question, man. First off, I gotta salute you. You were awarded the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from Joe Biden in 2022.
Yes.
Let's talk about that award. And then I saw on your Instagram, you also were in Accra doing a presentation there. So let's talk about both of those.
Well, yeah, the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, I was extremely honored to receive that. That's for volunteerism and work geared towards education and economic development, within the Black diaspora, the global Black diaspora. So, it was an honor to be there. I received the award at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., amongst a variety of, dynamic individuals and, national and international leaders. And, it was just really an honor. But I felt like that was just really the first step, and it's something that I definitely didn't expect. It's something, again, that, I was never even working towards. So, that's what makes it, great. And I'm humbled by it. But it just showed me that there's so much more work to do, because I know that I haven't tapped into my full potential. And it just showed me that, just seeing the other great things that other people who were there are doing, just makes me want to continue to give back. And even just like what you were talking about, like shrinking, the wealth gap. I want to help to shrink the education gap. And really just, promote us just having that sense of pride that, we had back when, and I'll be honest, I was watching, some old history stuff. I was watching Farrakhan the other day. I was watching, Malcolm X, just looking back on, just a period where, we were really focused on uplifting and elevating ourselves. Right. And I think that that's important. And I want to be a part, not, in my own way of just contributing and, helping to instill pride in the younger generations, helping people to tap into their gifts and their talents and just, do what they need to do. So, that award was great. Aside from that, going to Accra, that was an amazing experience. And I actually landed in Accra on my birthday. So that was great. So much hospitality. I was actually there to present an award to Archbishop Duncan Williams, who is one of the most prominent archbishops on the continent of Africa. And, we went to his church, and I presented him, with his Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. That was a great experience. I met so many people and building relationships on the continent of Africa. So I'm definitely through Defy Gravity International, looking forward to doing some more work over there and helping to bridge the gap between, Black Americans and, people over there on the continent. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
Yeah, definitely. Because as I was looking through some of your business clients, like I also saw you have the African and Caribbean Faith-Based Leadership Conference as a client as well. So talk about how that relationship was cultivated.
Yeah, that relationship was cultivated from the brother that I was working with for free, and so he was doing something in Washington, D.C., and he was like, hey, man, I'm going up to Washington, D.C. for this event. You want to roll? So I hopped in the car, with one of his partners, and we drove from Atlanta up to Washington, D.C., where I met this brother who is, the president and the founder of the Caribbean and African Faith-Based Leadership Conference. So from there, we met. And he just always, had a good feeling. We had good synergy when we met, and he just followed up with me about some of the things that he was working on doing, serving the African diaspora and, wanting to utilize some of my services to build more awareness of the organization and to help them, from a strategic standpoint. So he reached out. and we've had a great relationship probably for the last 6 years. So that really just materialized by me taking a gamble, and like this brother said, sometimes you got to do things for free, which lead to bigger and better opportunities. And that also was my entry into building relationships on the continent of Africa. So when you see how things kind of work, it was always my vision to one, visit the continent, but also to do work on the continent. And now seeing how that happened, it happens in ways sometimes that you can never anticipate. So I think sometimes when we're looking at life, we might have this grand scheme, this grand plan for how we're going to accomplish things. But you just got to continue to plant positive seeds in. You don't know exactly how, where they're going to sprout, but, they sprout in different ways. And, if you're putting that positive energy and work and productivity into the environment, that happens. And that's what started that relationship. And it's been great working with them. Actually, I have a conference coming up on the 18th, the 17th and 18th of this month in Washington, D.C.
Definitely. Okay. Hey, man, great information, man. Ivan Thomas, celebrity publicist, president and CEO of multiple businesses, entrepreneur, highly sought after celebrity publicist, by the way. Let's clarify that.
Yeah, let's add that in there.
Definitely, man. Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you pulled up on Black Men Sundays, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate your clients, brother. Peace.
Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate y'all.
It's a Black Man Sunday.